Thanks to those joining me live and to those that'll be joining me and the rest of the panel here on Archive. Shout out to everybody listening on the Leave It in the Ring network, whether it's iHeart, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, and give us those 5 stars on the Apple Podcasts as well. How's it going, Maestro? How you doing, brother?
Everything's blessed, brother. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing really, really good, man. We got Hailstorm, Scott Hill on here. How you doing, Scott?
Man, happy to be alive, brother.
Awesome. And we have making his debut on the roundtable, Kenny on here. How's it going, bro?
Can't complain, brother. Happy to be here. Glad to have gotten an invite. Thank you.
Definitely. Glad to have you here. Hey, by the way, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Share this video on all your social media platforms. And if you're listening on Archive, make sure you hit that like button. All right? Make sure you do that. All right, let's see that go up a little bit. Ron PMC on here. Andre Rodriguez, DJ Mexicano de Tejas in the chat as well. Hey, man, let's get this one started. Saul Canelo Alvarez. Big win. Looked impressive. Well, let me take that back. Dominant win. Okay, I don't know if it's a big win, but dominant win. All right. So let me rewind and dominant win against Yildirim. Not much to say about that. We all expected that. But the big thing, right, is that the Billy Joe Saunders fight was announced right afterwards. Very similar to how he fought Chavez Jr. and then they announced the Gennady Golovkin fight, right? But very similar to how they did that. They took a page out of that book, the book that Vince McMahon started in the WWE a long time ago, right? And that's what they're doing, right? So now let's go ahead and start with Maestro. Talk to us, man. What is your opinion about the fight with Billy Joe Saunders? And who do you think wins that fight? Who's your early preview winner for that one?
Right. So first of all, I got to give all credit to Canelo. I've been doing it all week. Might as well do it here again. He got the win. He got the dub, and he did what he had to do against an opponent that was clearly lower tier, but who was his mandatory. He had to face him. All right. He paid that sanctioning fee. He set a goal of becoming undisputed at 168. This was a necessary win, and he did what he was supposed to do. But I'm going to say one thing that I haven't said all week. I don't know if Caleb Truax, Mike Lee, or Vincent Figgenbounce would have even gone 3 rounds. So all these people hating on Canelo just need to think about that real quick. How long would Caleb Truax have gone or with Cinnamon himself? My guess is it would have been nothing sweet. He would have been eating those lefts and those rights and those uppercuts for about a round and a half before being stopped. So all hail to Canelo. He's doing his thing. He's the king at 168 right now. Billy Joe Saunders, listen, this is a competent guy. I said this last night on Hispanics Causing Panic Uncensored. This is an Olympian. He was fighting for the national team out there in the UK as a teenager. He went to the Olympics as a teenager. He's super high level. He's seen almost every style. My thing with Billy Joe is his career has been inconsistent. He's fought top level guys, and then he's dipped and fought not top level guys. And it seems that when he goes down in opposition, he kind of goes down in his seriousness, down in his training, and really down in the effort and let's just say the presentation that he gives the public as it relates to his skills and his pedigree. So he's clearly top level. I don't think 168 pounds is his best weight class. I think he moved up because he couldn't get the fights he wanted. The fight with Andrade fell through. I was actually looking forward to that one. Having said everything I just said, I'm going to lump it all together in a nice little synopsis for everybody, because I am a teacher and I do go on, and nobody, none of my students ever tell me to shut up. So I got to tell myself to shut up. All right. It's going to be Canelo's toughest test at 168. He's a southpaw. He's slick. He's got good movement. He's got a good chin. And I think that he very well may take Canelo the distance, maybe even get a draw. I would not be shocked if he gets a win, but I'm still picking Canelo in about a 65-35 a chance of winning.
All right. Okay. By the way, guys, this segment is brought to you by the Juan Manuel Marquez energy drink. It gives you those powers, re-energizes you, gets those vitamins back in your system, and allows you to knock out phenoms like Manny Pacquiao in fights. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, Kenny, talk to us, brother. What's your reaction? If you want to give us your thoughts on the Yildirim fight as well, by the way, go ahead and do that because we already heard Maestro talk about it all week. But if you want to give us your thoughts on that, but also what are your thoughts on Billy Joe Saunders fight and who wins?
No problem. Thank you, brother. Against Avni Yildirim, he did exactly what he was supposed to. He went just about the right amount of rounds that I thought that he would have gone, because I thought that, as Avni is supposedly known as a power puncher, I thought that Canelo wasn't just going to go in there and try to knock him out right away. I thought that Canelo would let him get a little gassed out and swing at the air a few times before he finished him off. And it seems like that's exactly what he did, play with him for a few rounds before he finished him off in the third round. It's exactly what he should have been done. For everybody talking crap, it doesn't make sense. We don't care. It's mandatory. He fought his mandatory. He did what he had to. It is what it is, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, man, I am super excited for that fight. It's a fight that I've been looking to happen for a long time. Me and Amilcar have spoke about this forever. It's just two styles that I think is going to make for an amazing fight. Two guys that could duck and dodge punches, two guys that can, punch with both hands, swing for the fences, two guys that are going to be doing the sweet dance, I do think it's going to be a 12 round fight. I do see Canelo winning by decision, decision is my first choice. If not, I go like between 8 and 10 round knockout. It depends if he employs that breaking the right bicep / shoulder down, how he did against Smith, So I don't know. I think there's definitely going to be a 12-round fight by decision for Canelo, either all 3 judges unanimous decision or 2 judges to 1. Or if not, my only other outcome would be a round 8 to 10 KO for Canelo.
Okay, all right. Hey, Scott, before I go to you, I want to give a shout out to William Boxing, who will have a better entrance, Canelo over Saunders. Look, as long as Canelo doesn't come out to reggaeton again, Canelo all day. You know what I mean? Like all day. Please don't have some British reggaeton, Billy Joe. I don't want to hear no British hip hop. Okay, I don't want to hear none of this. Okay, stay away from that. I hope this have normal entrances, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna say Canelo. I think he's gonna bring out the mariachis at Cinco de Mayo weekend. Battle de Puebla when we kick the French out. You know what I mean? So that's what it's all about, man. We appreciate the support there. Hey, what you think about his performance, Hale? I know you're a big Canelo fan. It was a show his fight. He fought 2 months ago.
It's breaking up a little bit. You guys able to hear me?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can.
My bad. I'll turn off the camera for a second while the internet fixes itself here. What do you think about the Yildirim performance, and what do you think about the Billy Joe Saunders fight?
Well, yeah. First on the last fight, it is what it is, man. It's funny. Fans are fans. They're always gonna be mad at something. You look at the dude's resume, who he's fought, who he's gone out of his way to fight. Literally, in every other sport, your schedule's made for you, right? So it's like the way I see it is this was just like, even though I'm a Lions fan, this would be like Tampa Bay playing the Lions. It is what it is, right? So the difference being is that so few guys actually fight 3 to 4 times a year. So to me, someone that is doing that in today's age in the middle of a pandemic should be celebrated, right? So, that fight was what it was. I literally watched it. I actually was out to eat. I was 6 feet apart and I was wearing a mask at all times. But yeah, so I watched that fight like Sunday morning and I was doing like 3 things at once. And it was exactly like I expected it to be, right? As far as the Saunders fight, I'm excited because I think he's one of those dudes that's, while he's slick, I think he's awkward. And to me, dudes that do things off beat usually take a little bit of time to get used to. I actually disagree a little bit. I think Canelo is going to stop him. I literally think this last fight was just essentially sparring, staying in shape, staying busy. In a pandemic, he's going to get some of that special beef. I think he's going to be ready to go. I think he's going to stop Saunders, actually. I'd say like around maybe like 8 or 9. He's going to start slow because, again, fighting a guy, southpaw, a little bit awkward, fights off beat, sometimes off balance. But, yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a stoppage. In fact, assuming fans are allowed, I will probably be in Vegas that weekend.
Wow, that's big. I'd love to be there too if I
All
could
right.
get it.
Okay. Hey.
Well, hey, for me, it's literally like a 45-minute flight. So it's, you know what I mean? So, and the way I look at it, I get so many coupons from Vegas hotels every damn day. Shit, I can book one of those cheap-ass rooms right now.
That's what's up. I've been catching the discount deals of like Cabo and Puerto Vallarta. Maybe I'll fly down there and watch it.
What? Hey, maybe you send me one of those emails. I'll send you one of my win emails. You know what I mean?
All inclusive, 6 nights. 5 nights, 6 days, or 6 nights, 7 days. So like between $250 and fucking $350, all inclusive.
Come on, dog. That sounds unreal.
I've gone on like 4 of these since the pandemic started with my wife. I'm not even playing.
I may have to hop in your suitcase.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, definitely. Hey, so I think D-Style fell off for a split second.
Yeah.
What do you think? So, hey, what do you guys think about this though? Right? Because he sent us all the rundown. So,
Yep, of course.
Okay, so there's 2 things I was really excited about. He said, "Is it too soon to discuss Canelo in the GOAT talk?" Just really fast. I mean, I'll say this. To me, GOAT talk, while it's always entertaining, it's always funny to me, right? Like literally no matter the sport. The difference is in boxing, unlike every other sport, like you look at football, basketball, baseball, whatever, boxing, I mean, outside of the rounds changing, the rules and the essence of the sport hasn't changed, right? So like to me, this is the one sport GOAT conversations make sense. Like, I mean, in basketball, LeBron against Jordan, literally the game has changed so much. Football, right? Like, I mean, you literally can't even tackle anymore. But in boxing, this is the sport. These conversations should happen all the time to me, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm here for it. But I think it's way too early to even have those conversations. But I'll pass it off to you guys. But like I said, to me, at least in boxing, it's like worth entertaining, right? Because it's like the size of the ring and all that. I mean, in theory, hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, you're a great point, Scott, because look, basketball's gone through serious rule changes that make it almost impossible because back in the day, you didn't have a shot clock, right? Back in the day, you didn't have a 3-point line, right? Back in the day, there was like rules that didn't allow people to even dunk the basketball, let alone the restrictions now on hand checking and everything else, right? Even if you look at a sport like soccer, I mean, when the World Cup started, it was essentially, it still is almost a Europe versus the world tournament. But back then it's like almost no teams from Africa, almost no teams from Asia. Like the landscape in sports has changed so much. The only big rule change that I think that affects things, there's 2 actually, now that I think about it. One is going from 15 rounds to 12 rounds in championship fights. And the other is the issue of same-day weigh-ins, which have now been converted to day before weigh-ins, right? So I think that as long as we separate the 2 eras, we're fine. So we got to leave the 15-round era to the 15-round era. Because when boxing first started out with the Queensberry rules, rounds were ended when you put a motherfucker on his ass. And then he got up, and then round 2 started. You know, and they literally go until no man was left standing. I mean, it's very difficult to compare Canelo to that era, right? Let alone to the era of 15-round fights. So what I would say is that let's stick to the 12-round era with the day before weigh-ins, and then maybe we can have a conversation after Canelo maybe clears out 168. Before we cut this teacher off, we gotta leave it off the table for now.
Hey guys, by the way, I apologize for that. I had to resolve an issue. Shout out to JC. I got Canelo by 8th round KO. That's of course over Billy Joe Saunders. Canelo right now is peaking, only getting better, and he hits hard as a motherfucker. Okay, there you go. Shout out to Tracy Girl to Get the Smoke, Kenny T Maestro, and we have the one and only Dave Duenes, AK 97 Rough. Talk to us, man. What you think about Canelo's performance against Yildirim, and what do you think about the Billy Joe Saunders fight? Who wins that fight?
Well, before that, I was saying, can we cut off the teacher? Because he's like, he overtalks too much. I don't know whose co-host that is, but that guy just talks way too much. Kenny, what's up, bro? Where you been?
Man, I was having technical issues, brother. Sorry, man. I'm back though. I'm back.
You got lighter, bro. Like, you got no color in your skin. You got to go outside, get some sun, man. What's going on?
This COVID got me hiding, bro.
I know, bro.
I lighter too, by the way.
Hail Sports, what's up, bro? Long time, man.
Good yes, sir. What's going on with you?
Same old, dude. So like, Canelo. I mean, what's there to say? Really, honestly, it was the performance that we expected. I did tweet out. I was like, look, at least he doesn't play with his food the way like Lomachenko would do and other fighters. Like they would let or even like Crawford, who allow a guy that's a B class or a club fighter go the distance or even surprise you that the guy was in the fight. Canelo didn't do any of that, but you'll have really right away, you have people kind of jump on the wagon and go like, oh, I mean, how dare this guy get in the ring? Like, well, I mean, look at the other guys that you see, other folks that are labeling pound for pound, and they allow other guys to actually stay in the ring a lot longer than suggested, which people were already suggesting, saying like, well, I think Canelo's going to let him fight a little longer because, he needs rounds. But on leaving the ring, and a lot of other folks, including your guys, I mean, your guys' is podcast, everybody was saying, I think he's going to make quick work of this, get this out of the way because it is a mandatory, because he wants that fight, or even why jeopardize getting a cut or a headbutt or anything like that and not getting the BJ Saunders fight. I like that fight. I think I'm with everybody. I like that fight. The only thing that I have a problem with the fight is BJ Saunders going to take that fight? Or what's going to happen is he bails out like he's normally done in the past when it's something that's an assignment that's actually too tough for the kid, So I'm not really sure. Another thing too is that, look, Canelo's got great head movement. BJ Saunders has great head movement. The difference is, though, is that Canelo fights. BJ runs. I'm just curious. Even though Canelo's got good head movement, does his legs match the head movement to catch BJ Saunders? So it can be a completely different fight. We all know that, Canelo has problem with guys that have head movement and don't want to engage, because Canelo has always been a counterpuncher. But I've seen now recently, Canelo has kind of learned both crafts. He understands that he just can't be a counterpuncher. He's got to be an aggressive fighter. So it's actually a good fight to find out, can he do this with the guy that's not going to want to engage with him, which is, Blow Sanders. Is he going to want to do that? I don't know.
David, can you please do me a favor and refer to him by his name? It's Billy Joe. Can you say that?
I thought it was, well, I mean, he was wearing an apron with a big old, dildo on it. So I just thought it was Blow Saunders,
Well, there you go. Hey, Kenny, talk to us, brother. What do you make of this Canelo GOAT talk? The GOAT.
Well,
it's Chivo.
And Chivo. And I could definitely see why he would call himself the GOAT. And, in today's day with today's fighters, like Milwaukee was saying, right? After 12 rounds, I could see him call himself the GOAT. I don't see who's doing the moves that Canelo's doing in boxing today. Maybe in previous times before I was born, historical fights, right? Chavez, but it's hard for me to judge those historical fights because there's not a lot of tape on all these historical fights. I could read up on them, I could look at stats and stuff like that, but it's really hard to actually see footage and make my own proper judgments on GOAT status. I can only judge in today's boxing because that's what I have been alive for. So in today's boxing, I am definitely going to say that he could definitely be the Mexican GOAT, or GOAT overall. Like, yeah, he did take the loss to Mayweather, and Mayweather's a great fighter. They're just different style fighters. And Mayweather, I could say Mayweather is probably the greatest in defense. He's undefeated, amazing, great. But I don't know if he has the greatest style in boxing, or if he fought the greatest boxers, to call himself the GOAT. You know what I'm saying? He had a lot of weak opposition. He had a lot of opposition which he took advantage of. Opposition that was just there to make him look good. You know, with Canelo, it just seems like he's just always moving on to bigger, better things, bigger, better opponents, and he's never afraid. This is a small guy fighting big dudes and making them look small. You know, so I'm definitely not against the GOAT talk. I can definitely see how Canelo can be the greatest of all time.
Look, here's what I'll say, guys. Give my perspective here. Look, everybody, please calm the hell down. Okay, that's number one, right? I want this guy to reign in his era. And once the honeymoon stage is over, once we see where all the cards in the deck fall, then we will judge Canelo when it's appropriate to judge Saul Canelo Alvarez. Right now is not the time. Of course, you're witnessing it live, and you're comparing it to guys that you see either on Box Trick or an old film. Well, you're not witnessing that live, you know. So I think it's a little too soon, in my opinion. I do see a lot of you out there already. Oh, we got to start talking about it. Like, what? Who made a rule that you need to start talking about the greatest of all time, like immediately and fast and now? Like, who made that rule? Like, there's no rule that says that. I just think there's a reason that in sports why guys retire and they have like a period where we have to wait 3 to 5 years, and then you put them in the Hall of Fame. Right, to let that honeymoon stage end. You know what I mean? Dave, what do you make of the GOAT talk?
I don't think so. That's what I think about that GOAT talk. Look, we live now in an era where everybody gets a trophy no matter what they do, okay? Look, I like what Canelo's doing. Let's give him that, okay? But let's be honest. He didn't have to go to the same roads that Salvador Sanchez, Julio, Evander Holyfield, a lot of these guys, you know, even like Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, these guys had to fight the fights to get where they're at. Any of these guys, like look at Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, you know, now you have Eddie Chambers saying, we got to give him the props and all that if he jumps up, you know, 4 weights and he does all this. Come on, guys. I mean, this is ridiculous. You know, I mean, what about proving yourself? Forget about just giving somebody an award because they tried or they did something without actually taking the man. What happened to the phrase of to beat the man, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man, you know? Now, don't get me wrong. I like what Canelo's doing. I'm going to give him his props. I'm going to say, look, man, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. But you cannot compare him to Salvador Sanchez. Salvador Sanchez at a very young age was destroying guys that became later on in the careers Hall of Famers that already showed signs of being a Hall of Famer. Callum Smith, well, let me take this back. Everybody nowadays can be a Hall of Famer because the way a lot of these media guys have jumped on this bandwagon. Now they get any Billy Saunders, because I know that's what my co-host likes me to call them, any Billy Saunders of the boxing world to go there and give a stamp on who can be a Hall of Famer. It's ridiculous.
All right. Hey, we have someone making a debut to the round table. What's going on, Matt Edelman? How are you doing, brother?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very, very well. Let me ask you a quick question. What did you make of Saul Canelo Alvarez's performance against Yildirim, for what it's worth? And what do you make of the fight against Billy Joe Saunders? Are you excited for the fight, and who do you have winning that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see the fight. I mean, Saunders to me feels like this sort of unknown quantity because he had that great performance against Lemieux where he looked, special. And since then, he's been, sometimes out of shape. He's doing stuff on social media that's getting negative attention. I just saw that video on Twitter of his son punching, was that Willie Monroe Jr. in the balls at the weigh-in, which he did not respond to. He didn't discipline him at all, which really turned me off.
I forgot.
So,
I forgot about that.
He's a nutcracker.
Yeah, it was really sad situation. So I don't know. I hope Canelo blasts him, and that's what I think will probably happen. And the Yildirim fight, I don't know. I mean, it was quick. Like he got rid of him. That's what he's supposed to do. Yeah,
I think a lot of people expected that. Now, I just wanted to say this about the Yildirim fight. I didn't get a chance to say this. I actually do feel Canelo was carrying him a little bit, and he still stopped him in 3 rounds. I don't think Canelo was going all out on the dude. I just don't. Like, I think if he has 6 gears, he was on 2nd gear in that fight.
You might be
and
right.
I think that's scary.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right because he wasn't throwing back for like that 2nd round. There was nothing being thrown back at Canelo. You know?
I think he wanted to put on a show. I think he's like, if I knock this dude out in 3 rounds, which he did, they're gonna say it was a chump. You know what I mean? So that's what I think about that. By the way, guys, make sure you hit my like button. Right, share this video on all your social media platforms and all that good stuff. Here's what I want to ask: I hear this talked about a lot, and maybe we'll agree or disagree. And it's this: Mayweather. I either hear he's improved immensely since the Mayweather fight, or he hasn't really improved. It's just that he hasn't really fought anybody as good as Mayweather. And so I kind of hear both things. You know what I mean? And there's also the added caveat of, he learned a lot from that fight, and now he uses a lot of Mayweather's tricks in the ring. You know, I think he did take some tricks from Mayweather. I just don't think they're boxing tricks. I think he took some like how to be your own boss, and look, he left De La Hoya now, and I think he kind of maybe took that a little bit from Mayweather. But I don't know. I have my thoughts on it, but I'll reserve them for now. Scott Hale, let me go to you first, okay? Also, give us your thoughts on the all-time talk before you proceed to that, though.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, man, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I think it's premature as far as the GOAT talk, but I think that's just a byproduct of social media. I mean, you don't even need a publicist these days, so everyone has an opinion. Hey, shit, we got 6 of us on here, right? So to me, I'm with you. The GOAT talk should only really happen near the end of someone's career when you've had time to go back and look at who is who, right? Because there's times when you think that this is a big win, and then 3 years later, like, this guy didn't pan out. Then there's years later where you thought, oh, that was kind of just a ho-hum performance, and then that guy goes on to be tough as shit, and you're like, damn, that's a sneaky good win. So I just like the fact that he's bold, and like, to me, that's the thing, and that's why I have my name down as casual fan, because I used to be such a huge fan, and now the sport has brought me back. But it's like I felt like guys for a long time stopped challenging themselves. So I realize as a fan that's easy to say because I'm not the one that's getting hit in the face. But it's like at the end of the day, if you have a belt, you're a champion, and you have to go defend that fucking belt. Or if you want the belt, sometimes you have to go to someone else's house and take it. So to me, as far as the whole Floyd or the whole GOAT talk, I just think it's way too early. He's definitely the greatest redhead in the sport. But I mean, when you look at it, the reason why I also think it's unfair to him to have it is because then you put these crazy expectations on him, right? And then if he doesn't live up to what you thought he was at 30, 31 years old, then all of a sudden he's like, oh, man, he's overrated. To me, he's chasing GOAT status. And as a fan of the sport, that's all I want. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys, Crawford, guys like that, I'm not sure if they're actually chasing that, right? I think they want to be a champion, but I don't think they're chasing GOAT status. I think Canelo is actually trying to be in that conversation. And as a fan, that's all I want. You know what I mean? As far as the Floyd stuff, I think both can be true. I mean, it's not Floyd's parents' fault. He's his age. It's not Canelo's parents' fault. He's his age. I mean, they fought when they fought. Obviously, Canelo's gotten much better. I think it's weird because one of the fights, this is a random ass story. I don't even know how I ended up there. But I was in the glove room, and who was Floyd fighting? Maybe Shane. Canelo was there. And like the way he was looking at Floyd was weird. Like he was looking at him like almost in awe, right? So when they fought, I think Floyd just had such a huge mental edge on him. And I just think Dude, you guys know this. Styles make fights, right? Maybe Floyd's quote unquote style is a bad mix for Canelo. I think the difference now is he's gotten so much better at walking his opponent down. His angles are so much better. He doesn't waste movement. I mean, his feet at times may be a little bit heavy, but Canelo's torso is slick as fuck. You know what I mean? And I honestly don't think he's avoiding slick fighters, which is code for what? Black fighters, right? Isn't that like the code? Like, oh, he's a fun slick fighter. Oh, you mean he's a fun brother? I mean, at the end of the day, not every black fighter is slick. Okay.
Last I checked, I mean, Danny Jacobs is a brother.
Yeah, but also though, like that's what I'm saying is like so.
But
like,
Danny's not Floyd though. That's just the thing.
Right. But perfect example, right? In basketball, every year at the draft, every tall white dude's compared to Larry Bird, no matter how he plays. Like, no matter, literally, he could be left-handed and have a patch. Oh, it's the next Larry Bird. It's like, dude, every black fighter ain't slick. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've hooped with plenty of black dudes that can't jump for shit. I'm one of them. You know what I mean? So, to me, yeah, slick fighters may give him problems. Guess what? Slick fighters give most fighters problems. What I've seen from Canelo is the in-fight adjustments have sped up. What maybe would take him 4 rounds is taking him 2 rounds. You know what I mean? And like his commitment to the body slows down all that slick shit. I don't care how slick you are, you get hit in the ribs enough times, everyone slows down. So to me, I just see that as kind of code for like he hasn't fought. But okay, what quote unquote slick fighter has he avoided?
Well, I mean, look, I think that if I had to pick Canelo versus Floyd now, I'd still pick Floyd because what would Floyd like? He would pick the weight. He would pick certain things to have the advantages. You know what I'm saying? But again, like Floyd was special because of what Floyd would do. Like you can only do it once. You know what I mean? Like if we had a game plan, an A plan, he would take that away from you as soon as you attack that. You needed a B and a C. You know, so like Laura showed that if you had movement and you had power, you can keep Canelo off, right? Blow J. Saunders doesn't have that. You know, it doesn't have
Let's call him Billy Joe. Let's call him Billy Joe.
Sorry. You know,
keep going.
You know, so what's his name? Oh, BJ. BJ Saunders doesn't have the power to keep Canelo off, just like Callum. Callum Plant doesn't have that power. You know, at least Floyd, and as much folks want to say that he doesn't have the power. I mean, he had the accuracy. If you had the accuracy, you could keep it.
That's what it was.
Off. Yeah.
Plus, he hit you right in the sternum. That's the most underrated punch he throw. Dude,
he would set you up. Look, Shane Mosley rocked him. But what did he do after that? He ended up taking that away by jabbing to the center of solar plex of Shane. It took him off his game. So, you know, the whole ifs and ands, could he do this to Floyd now? I'm not sure, but there's not anybody right now in his way that replicates what Floyd could have done because Floyd wasn't just slick. Let's be honest. Floyd was really smart in and outside of the ring.
Good IQ. Yeah.
Bro, hey.
Dave, do you think he's improved? Do you think he's improved since then?
Oh, I think Canelo's improved a lot, but to say that he's smooth with his feet against really who have we seen? I mean, Callum Smith is not the most smoothest guy on his feet. The last guy he just fought, not the smoothest guy on his feet. Even Danny Jacobs doesn't fight nothing like these, slick fighters like, Hare was saying right now, aka black fighters. I'm sorry, none of the guys that he's fought are actually these slick black fighters. He hasn't fought them. Let's be honest. He hasn't done it.
Okay. All right. But, hey, Hale, go ahead and finish your point there.
Well, yeah. But I was going to say, though, in his defense, they're also just not there as he's moved up. Right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah. No, really cool. Yeah. And one last thing on Floyd, to me, the ultimate irony of Floyd, right, is like, think about when he fought Oscar, he was dictated to, right? So then when he won, he obviously flipped the script. So he learned that script from Oscar. But it's ironic to me because, like, I feel like Floyd had to become this personality because his, like literally, he fought like Tim Duncan played basketball. Like, his shit was so fundamental that if he didn't talk crazy, I'm not sure the people would have really been excited by him. You know what I mean? So to me, it's just one of those things, too, where it's like, to your point, if he fought Floyd 10 times, he's going to punch that rope 10 times in a fight, right? I mean, it just is what it is. He just had that advantage over him.
All right, let's go ahead. Matt, go ahead and give us your thoughts, man. Do you think Canelo has improved since the Mayweather fight, or is it a product of he just hasn't fought anybody as good as Floyd Mayweather?
Excuse me. I think it's an interesting question because I was really shocked by how comprehensively Floyd completely controlled that fight when it happened. I mean, I get that Canelo was really young, but like he looked really great before then. That's how he got the fight. And I think to his credit, he has improved. I mean, he's just become I think he's become probably the, pound for pound best fighter in boxing. He's moved way up. He's beaten these big guys. He took it to Kovalev. However you want to describe the fights with Golovkin, those were tough. Those were competitive. And he's made himself the man, even though he got kind of embarrassed by the man. And, I'll give him credit for that. He's like I would say he's probably the face of boxing.
Okay.
He's gotten bigger and he's gotten better.
There we go. Just to add my point really quick, I just don't think like the Canelo right now, Mayweather would never fight him. It's too high in a weight class. It just wouldn't happen. It's not a possible fight. You know what I mean? Mayweather wouldn't move up and fight Maravilla Martinez. You know what I mean? So for what it's worth, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. Milcar, what are your thoughts on that, bro?
Well, my first thought is I do agree with Matt. I mean, Mayweather just comprehensively dominated him in that fight and made Canelo look much less than his talent would otherwise indicate. Two things I think that Canelo learned from Mayweather in that fight. One is composure. It's been a while since we've seen Canelo like gas out in fights. Canelo takes his time now. He relaxes in there. He does not approach fights the way he did early on in his career, where it was very front load heavy and the back end was, plagued with issues of stamina and cardio. The other thing I think he learned from Floyd is how to master catch weights. If you remember, Floyd got him with the catch weight. That fight was not at 154. And that, more than anything, is the reason this kind of fight would never happen again, because ain't no way Floyd's going up to 154, and ain't no way Canelo going below 154. So that right there just ends it. He got that fight because he was willing to sacrifice his fitness on the night of the fight in order to secure that fight, which is why that fight took place at that catch weight. Mayweather mastered this. I actually had breakfast with Juan Manuel Marquez before that fight, where Mayweather kind of came out of retirement. And I'm using air quotes for everyone listening to us on the Leave It in the Ring radio network in podcast form, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Podcasts, all that good shit. I was there with Marquez. That fight was supposed to be at a catch weight, if you guys remember. And Mayweather did not even try to make that catch weight.
Didn't show up. He didn't even try.
And this was a Marquez who at the time was moving up from lightweight, if I remember correctly, to fight him at a catch weight of like 144, sorry. Yeah. And Mayweather took that fight and took it at 147, paid a little fine, and dominated Marquez. So Canelo learned from that. If you guys remember, Canelo was fighting catch weight fights for the middleweight title until his body fully developed into a true middleweight. So he learned that. He learned fighting under composure. I'm not going to say he learned the shoulder roll necessarily from Mayweather, because there's other people who've obviously used that. My man Hailstorm is rocking the Detroit hat, and he'll obviously know that James Toney was a master of that shoulder roll.
No doubt.
But yes, I do think he learned the business side, like you said, D-Style. He learned that kind of fighting calm. And that catch weight is definitely something he took away from Money Mayweather.
Definitely. Before we get to Kenny, go ahead and give us. I know you got to go, Dave. So give us some thoughts before you go, brother.
Man, I'm just glad I was able to jump on. I got to get going. I got my mom here that just showed up. I made dinner for her and everything. But everything's great, man. You guys had a great panel and stuff. Again with the Floyd. I agree with what Hale and what even my co-host said right now. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Floyd would have taken this fight without having these ramifications in order to take the fight with Canelo. I'm not saying Canelo hasn't improved, but I still think, I think every fighter nowadays, there's a room to criticize and to have doubt about them. And the reason why is because they leave that there, because we live in an era where second and third and fourth place get a title. Everybody gets a title nowadays, So that's my final thoughts. Again, guys, appreciate coming on. As always, don't forget to tune in. If you missed the show, go on the Leaving Room rotation, guys. Have a great night.
All right, definitely.
Good night,
Shout out
Dave.
to Dave.
Good
All
to
right.
see you. Let's catch up soon.
Most definitely. Kenny, give us some thoughts, brother. What do you think it is, man? Has Canelo really improved that much? Is it really a brand new Canelo, or is this just a matter of matchmaking here?
All right. Well, I definitely think Canelo has drastically improved, but it's definitely also partly matchmaking. It's not that he's fighting lesser opponents. I think he took a couple of pages from Mayweather's handbook, right? I'm not gonna say that he copied the shoulder roll from Mayweather, but he damn sure didn't use it before Mayweather's fight. He started using it after Mayweather's fight. So if you got to credit anybody for that shoulder roll that Canelo's using, it's got to be Mayweather, because he started using it after the Mayweather fight, not before the Mayweather fight. He also got a lot of the head movements. I'm not going to say the footwork is he definitely copied, but I think he copied a lot of the head movements and copied the shoulder roll from Mayweather. His defense has drastically gotten better since the Mayweather fight. The second page that I think he stole from Mayweather's handbook is he learned to go up in weight and to use his speed and power. He kept on developing and building power as he went up in weight, but he's faster. He's agile. His stamina, it lasts longer than these bigger guys in these bigger weight class, which is something that Mayweather did himself. Mayweather started fighting at the 130 weight class. When Mayweather was fighting at 130, he was knocking everybody the fuck out. Then he went up to 135, 140, 147, where he stayed for a while. Then all the catch weights, yada, 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 yada. But Canelo definitely took that page from his handbook, because Canelo went from 147 to 154 to 160, now 168. And the opposition that he's fighting is not any lesser. It's not worse opposition. It's just that it's great opposition for the weight class that they're at. But it's not great opposition for Canelo, a guy who is way more agile, because he is a smaller fighter naturally, a guy who has built and developed the strength to stay in the ring and box with these bigger guys. Because if you look at Canelo, he looks like a little bull. This guy is built. This guy is super built. So those are the two pages I think that he took from Canelo's handbook. He's definitely gotten better. He's and he's definitely fighting opposition that is catered for him to look amazing with. It's not that these guys are whack. It's just that Canelo just has all the tools to destroy these guys, which is similar to what Mayweather was doing. The difference is that Canelo isn't just fighting guys that are going to make him look great. Canelo's also fighting some challenging fights. He's not only I don't think Canelo's cherry picking. Mayweather definitely cherry picked a few fights in his career. But yeah, he's definitely gotten better. He definitely took a few pages from Mayweather, but he is his own fighter. He's developed in his own way where he's not like a clone of Mayweather in any way. He's definitely his own fighter.
Yeah. The one thing about Canelo, and I think it's the pacing he has improved it a lot. Maybe he picked that up from Mayweather, but at the end of the day, there are things that he does do, with that high guard, catching shots, the way he rolls his shots is very very different to the way Mayweather would fight, So he definitely has his own way of approaching fights and all that. Shout out to Tracy Box Girl, Maestro ILT, Pound for Pound Boxing News, 92 AKU, Chicano Prophet, A-Rod, JC, D Hodges, all of you in the chat. Shout out, make sure, and Raw Boxing TV, of course, hit the like button, share the video, and all that. With that said, we're going to go ahead and proceed here. So it's going to be an all-women's pay-per-view. All right. And I believe it's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or Saturday. I'm not sure. Anybody could correct me on that. But Clarissa Shields going to be fighting Decari. I think she's a very heavy favorite. She should win this fight. But my question to you guys is, what what are your thoughts on this all women's pay-per-view? Was it the right time to do it? Has it been promoted right? Has any person you know in your life brought it up to your attention? Just in general, what are your general thoughts on this pay-per-view? Let's start with Matt.
Well, I've never heard of this woman, so obviously the opponent. I've heard of Shields, so I mean, I don't think they've done a great job promoting it. I pay a decent amount of attention. I had not heard about the event until like 2 days ago. I don't know. It just sort of leaves me like with a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. She's like complaining about it before it's even happened. It seems like she's sort of anticipating it being a failure. I'm anticipating it being a failure. So, what are you going to do? I mean, there aren't a lot of like great fights to be made. Like, no, there are just not that many like good fighters in the ranks, and they're not all at the same weight class. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Amilcar. What thoughts, man?
I'm right there with Matt. It's difficult to say that you can think this is going to be a success when the star of the show is already preempting failure, and I said it yesterday on your show, D-Style, that there's essentially one name on this card. I was corrected. There's two names on the card. But I'll say this again. I've been repeating this for ages. This is not judo. This is not taekwondo. This is not a sport where women have been pursuing the sport on an international level for a very long time. And what that leads to is a very, very shallow depth of competition. There's a reason why Christy Martin was constantly jumping up and down in weight to find an opponent. And this has not changed much. And we're now in 2021, and it's like the same thing. There's a reason why before Breakus had lost, and by the way, Breakus is a lot smaller than Clarissa Shields, people were calling for a Breakus-Clarissa Shields fight. Well, why? Because the perception is, and it's a valid perception, that there's not anybody else for them to fight. So I don't really think anyone is really all that up for this. I think that yesterday I said I think 100,000 is going to be like a raucous like sensation if they sell that much. That's like Dream City to me. That's like a pipe dream. I think 50,000 pay-per-views, they'll be counting the lucky stars because the majority of people will not be buying this. And this is going to sound harsh. I don't even think motherfuckers are going to be looking for streams on the night of this card. So that's just what it is. And I'll leave it at that, D-Style.
Yeah, I believe Fight TV is going to have it for $29.99 for those asking. How much it is. Shout out to JC Joe Lopez out here. Scott Hale, what have you heard anything about this? Is this a historic event in your? Because they're calling it historic, first ever women's pay-per-view. But I mean, I no one's that's how I judge things. If someone that normally doesn't mention anything says it to me, like when Teofimo beat Loma and people that never talk boxing with me were mentioning it to me, right. I knew it was a big deal. But from your vantage point over there in Scottsdale, Arizona, what's the word?
Yes, sir. I mean, it's up there with the Thriller in Manila and other history. I mean, I actually have a little bit of a different perspective on this. So I actually used to work for Muhammad and Layla, right? And D-Style, I don't even know if you knew that, but so we went to Africa for a fight.
I know because you got permission to use an image on the shirt. Yeah, I remember.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, and it's funny because everyone thought Layla was ducking Ann when like I literally sat in on some of those negotiations. That was not happening at all. Ann wanted Layla money. I mean, literally, Layla got 6 figures to go to Africa and fight. I mean, so there's male fighters who've won medals who haven't gotten money like that. So anyway, I had to say all that to say that was years ago, and Maestro hit on the head. The strength of all sports is in the grassroots, right? So it's like there's always the next young champions we're excited to see about, whether it's through the Olympics or like you hear about them in Golden Gloves. Like, whoever gets signed, it's like a bidding war between, top ranked Golden Boy, whoever to sign this next hot rocket fighter. Oh, man, this dude's the next great fighter out of Mexico, Puerto Rico, New York, wherever. Women's boxing not having any form of grassroots, like they don't have a college football. The reason why the NFL is so big is they have a farm system that literally, think how big the draft is, right? It's because college football is so big, you literally watch for hours to see who the next star is. The NBA is the same way, right? You got kids skipping college. You got kids like Luka from all over the world. These kids are superstars at 17, 18, 19 years old. It creates so much organic intrigue because you want to see how Luka's going to match against LeBron, right? The NBA doesn't even have to market that. It's already there. So in women's boxing, they need to literally, if there is a commitment, which I think there should be, but if there is one, the commitment has to start at the youth levels. And when you build depth, you can build rivalries. Think of some of the best fights we've ever seen, right? Vernon Forrest, rest in peace. Remember when he walked across the ring and just beat the shit out of Shane? And I was in shock. But then when I found out that they had fought an amateur 3-4 times and he had like this mental edge on Shane, it all made sense, right? But like, there's no natural rivalries in women's boxing. There just isn't. So to me, am I excited about it? Hell no. $30 in a pandemic? Hell no. But I think it's something that has to happen eventually. I just wish there was an organic rivalry that was being featured on the pay-per-view. To me, like I said, if people are committed to it, putting the best female fights on a good male card can help create some of that intrigue that in turn leads to a pay-per-view. Really, the gender doesn't matter, right? The fights we're most excited about, especially back in the day, is guys would be on each other. Like dudes used to be on the same cards. They talk shit, and then we couldn't wait to see them fight. They need to do the same thing in women's boxing. To me, the formula hasn't changed, right? People are going to watch a good fight. I just feel like maybe 10, 15% of pay-per-views happen for one reason, because no one wanted to pay any TV money. And so their only way of hoping to get any money back is they made it a pay-per-view fight, right? And I think that's probably what happened here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Kenny, talk to us. How do you think they're promoting this, man? Have you heard anybody? Aren't you in the Big Apple? There's plenty of people that could talk to you about it, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. Especially not during these COVID times. I'm gonna be watching the fight, right? I'm not gonna say my means of how I'm gonna watch the fight, but I'll be watching the fight.
Oh, remember that song? Roll, roll, roll your boat gently down the. Go ahead. I'd say it.
But yeah, it's just I will be watching the fight. Yes. Am I excited for it? That answers the question. Should it have been a pay-per-view? I don't think so. There's a lot of fights that I don't think should have been a pay-per-view. I don't like pay-per-view. I don't support pay-per-view, especially during the pandemic. My best reason for buying a pay-per-view is because I have guests over. All my family members are here hanging out with me, drinking beers, and we're watching the pay-per-view. But if I'm here hanging out at home alone, I am not buying no pay-per-view. That's a fact. I'd rather have the money in my pockets and use for other things. There's lots of things that I like to do that my money can go to instead of pay-per-view. If anything, if these boxers feel like they need more exposure, then they should make a fight card with 10 to 15 fights on it. Start at 12 p.m. or whatever, and have a day full of fights or something where more people are watching. They could get more exposure and they could get paid more money to pay the fighters and for the TV networks to get themselves. But I do not support pay-per-view. I hate pay-per-view. So no, I don't think that their fight should have been a pay-per-view. I don't think that it should have been an all women's pay-per-view either. I think that boxing is one sport. Males and females, it doesn't matter. It's one sport. So I think that they should both be promoted together. They should have had some men on that card, not because they need men, but because if they would have had some men on the undercard, it would have helped promote the rest of the card. The pay-per-view would have got more views off of there being some known male fighters on that card. What they should have done is, if they want to promote female boxing, had the main fight as the main fight on a other pay-per-view card, and have a couple of of major fights under it. Matter of fact, that Ruiz fight with I forgot what's his name. That fight could have been on the undercard of the female pay-per-view fight, and that would have been a much grander pay-per-view instead of having the Ruiz fight on a separate pay-per-view and this girl's fight on a separate pay-per-view. I'm not paying for either one. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm gonna watch both of them, but I'm not paying for either one. It just is what it is. And I love the ladies. I love the athletics. I love all the fighting. It's nothing against women. It's just this promotion, the way they're doing this, the way they're handling this. It's just not beneficial to the ladies boxing.
A shout out to Retro Boxing and Documentaries. Make sure you guys check out that fire, Salvador Sanchez documentary. Okay, before you start talking about Canelo being the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, you got to watch that documentary first. And, there's somebody featured in that. I don't want to mention any names, you know what I mean? But a particular guy is featured in there, talking about it and all that good stuff. We're going to get to the call. Caller, please wait. All right? I know you told me, Milcar, but I want to say this before I forget. Women's boxing needs to hear the truth. I saw some people say, why bash women's boxers? I hear one person bash women boxing. I heard people say the truth. Like if I say there's not enough talent, I'm sorry, there's not enough talent. 20 women in the division is not enough talent. We need to speak the truth. And you know who else is telling the truth? The new generation coming in. Okay? A lot of the females that are now amateurs and are saying, no, we want to fight 3 rounds. We don't want to keep fighting 2 minutes. We want 3 minutes, right? And they're coming in, they're Olympians now. It's getting better. It's going to take time. But the reality is, it just isn't enough talent. Like, Carissa Shields was the champion of a weight class with 20 women in it. Half of them were losing records. I mean, another quarter with 500 records. You cannot tell me that we can't be honest about that. Now, granted, I know what she's chasing. I know she's trying to make some fights happen. She's moved the weight classes. Props to her. They're trying to make this pay-per-view, right? But if we're going to talk about the pay-per-views out there, I want to talk about it. I'll support it, but I'm just one person. You know what I mean? I do support women's boxers. I brought on women boxers to interview them and talk to them, right? So I do support women's boxing. That's all I'm saying, right? I just want to throw it out there, but we could go to the caller now. Amilcar.
Cool. I just wanted to say one thing, too, before the caller, which is that people need to stop it with the Clarissa Shields GOAT nonsense. I'll say this right now.
Get it right. Quote.
Sorry, GWOAT. And Wolves knocks the fuck out of Clarissa Shields. And if anybody is going to dispute that, you guys are crazy. But caller 916, you are on the line live with the Leave It in the Ring roundtable.
That's G-Funky?
Orale raza, G-Funky Boxing, what's up?
What's going on, G-Funky?
We know. You got you got the fight right. We know.
How's everybody doing tonight, man? Hope everyone's doing well, man.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks for calling in, obviously. And congrats on the 10th year.
Pay-per-view, man, the all-women's pay-per-view card. I'm really hoping for the best, man. I really am. I just don't think it's going to happen, man. It's been so poorly promoted. I have not seen anything outside of, the stuff that I'm seeing. Like, obviously, we're in a boxing community on YouTube. Obviously, we're in a boxing community on Twitter and in the other social networks. I have not seen nothing on television talking about this fight. Nobody I know that's a casual has known anything about it. It's just not going to do well, man, unfortunately. And, I don't know what they can do to possibly turn women's boxing around at this point. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but I just don't see how it turns the corner, man. It goes to the next level, man.
Well, it's like anything else. We need more talent. It's only been an Olympic sport since 2012. You know what I mean? So, and we have talent coming in. You know what I mean? Look, Katie Taylor is already making like over $1 million. She's a star where she's at in her country. It's not like we don't have stars, But in women's fighting, though, it's kind of like the opposite of the men. It's the lower weight classes is where they have like 200 women per division, and the higher you go, you don't really have anything because women are generally don't walk around in shape 200 pounds. Like it's not like a thing. You know what I mean? An in shape woman's going to be 120 or under, right? 150 or under, or something like that. You're not going to see a woman in really good boxing shape weigh 220 pounds and have a women's heavyweight division. And I think that's the thing, man. But
absolutely. Hey. And look, we got a lot of Mexicanos and Chicanos that call into this show. So I'll just say it like this. You know, there is no Maria Espinosa in Mexican women's boxing, right? There is no Soraya Jimenez in women's boxing in Mexico. And if you don't know who those two women are, those are Olympic gold medalists in the sport of Taekwondo. Women. Okay, Taekwondo is a much more international sport at the women's level. Women have been doing it for a really long time. Many more women do it in Mexico than do boxing. All right. And the level of competition and the level of talent is super deep. The same is true with judo, but specifically with Taekwondo, it's very, very high. That just does not happen right now in the sport of boxing. It hasn't been an Olympic sport long enough, like D-Style says, and it's going to be years before it gets to the level of Taekwondo, maybe decades.
Yeah, sure. Man. It's tough. It's tough for women's boxing, but I also want to touch on this Canelo thing, man. Before I let you guys go, I want to say this, man. I'm hearing a lot of the same things that I heard when I talked about Burchell and his mistakes and things like that he was making in the past. You know, I'm seeing guys in the chat say, "Oh man, it's a long time ago. He's much more improved since then." Now, look, I've said this a lot when it comes to Canelo. I've done a lot of prediction videos for him here on YouTube, and I've said it in almost every one of my videos. Yeah, he's improved in certain things, but the one thing that I have not seen yet from him is that improved ability to cut off the ring on somebody when they're moving. And it's been a long time since he's been in there with someone that's going to be on the move like a Billy Joe Saunders, man. So I'm just going to say this, man. Let's not just sweep it under the rug. It's something that needs to be seen, man. Just like when I talked about Burchell's bad defense, like, he's done this and that since then. But we still got to see it, man. We got to see it happen in the ring. I think he can do it against Billy Joe because I don't think he's as good as an Erislandy Lara when it comes to moving and creating traps and stuff like that. But it is going to take some good footwork, and he's going to have to cut off the ring on him at some point, man. And I just got to see it before I can just say, you know, he's much more improved and he'll take care of it. I got to see it first, man.
Right. Give us some, some anything else you wanted to say, G Funky, before we let you go for the next caller, brother.
And also, yeah, and I agree with you, D. I think it's just too early for the GOAT conversation. Way too early as far as Mexican boxing goes. You and I have made, we've done shows, we've made lists, top 11 Mexican fighters. And, I don't see him cracking that list just yet, man. But, he's still young, man. He's only 30. So depending on how much longer he goes and who they get him in there with and who he beats from here on out, we never know, man. But let's just chill on that for right now. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in, brother.
And you guys, I'll continue to listen, man. I got some things going, but good so far, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, G Funky. Talk to you soon.
Hey, anybody in the panel wanted to add anything before we go to the next topic about the women's topic?
Yes, actually. I read somebody in the comments saying that the GOAT should go and head over to MMA, that she would become a star and she would make a ton of money in MMA. And I wholeheartedly agree with it, but in my opinion, she should stay in boxing because I think she's the best shot that female boxing has at getting big. She talks a whole lot. That works amazing. She's challenging people left and right. That works amazing. Although I haven't heard nothing about this fight that's coming up, I think Claressa Shields has the best opportunity at making female boxing big after they increased it to 3 rounds.
Go ahead, Hell.
Hey, Just at the point. I mean, obviously, we know standards are different. I'm not trying to get onto a whole conversation, men versus women. What I will say though
Why
is,
not do it? That's fine. Go ahead.
no, do it. But there are some sports where actually the female athletes are marketed bigger and better, right? Tennis is like a perfect example. U.S. women's soccer. I mean, our men's team is absolute soggy trash, but our women's team is dope and dominant. They have tons of personalities. Volleyball, WNBA, while it still is in the shadow, obviously, of the NBA, but many of the women are bigger stars actually overseas, right? So my point is, it's still the same thing, right? If Shield is going to carry the sport, that's fine. But what makes every action movie is the villain, right? You know what I mean? So it's like a trilogy would change everything, right? Like, I mean, if she had someone that was deemed a legit competitor, they fight, it's an entertaining, fun fight, we would
Hannah Gabriel's.
Yeah, I mean, we would say the same thing we say in men's boxing, right? Run it back. Like, I mean, like at the end of the day, I mean, it's a corny analogy, but it's so true. You can be at Game 7 of the NBA Finals, be at the Super Bowl. When cats start fighting in the stands, everyone turns and looks, right? No one's going to turn away from a good fight. It's just never going to happen. And so to me, that's what ultimately has to happen, is that it doesn't matter how great she's deemed, she needs a counterpart. She needs a foe. She needs a villain. And again, that's how it starts. 1 villain, 2 villain, 3 villain. Before you know, you have a good, fun division. That's what they need to establish, is just get 5 to 7 women within 5 to 10 pounds of each other, do some type of round robin, and that'll create excitement, you know? And one last thing, to agree with Kenny, I totally agree. They got to go to 3-minute rounds, man. They got to go to 3-minute rounds.
Hey, if you want equality, you got to have equality. You know what I mean? It's the way I see. Because one last thing before we have Raw Boxing on hold, but let me say this. When it comes to, because I got to say this, I got to be honest. Right now, I understand that it's all males here, and it's easy to say, hey, you guys aren't, like, we are talking about it. I am bringing awareness about it. I'm going to support the event, but where are the women? Where are the women supporting women fighters? You know what I mean? Because you know what men don't support? We don't support men's gymnastics, which is why the ratings are abysmal in the Olympics. But you know what? What has the best ratings in the Olympics out of everything? Is women's gymnastics. Well, women's gymnastics. The 100 does do better ratings, but that's only like 10 seconds, though. You know what I mean? I don't count. You know what I mean? That's like sub 10 seconds. You know, but women's gymnastics overall, maybe not single event, but overall, do better ratings. And the women don't support the men's gymnastics. And ain't nobody calling the women, sexist and all that for not supporting the men the way they do the women's gymnastics. That's what they watch. You know what I mean? And the men don't watch men's gymnastics. We just don't want to see men do splits. It is what it is. But let's go to Raw Boxing, though.
Raw Boxing, you're on live with us, bro. How's it going, Ranger?
For having me over.
Of course, fam.
Listen, I just want to backtrack on a subject real quick, and then I'll give you my input on the female boxing side. On the greatest Mexican boxer of all time, I just want to say, whoever has anybody in front of Ricardo El Finito Lopez is smoking Bob Marley weed, man. Because Ricardo El Finito Lopez, to me, when you look at the way he fought, when you look at the way he carried his career, the oppositions that he fought, the wars he was involved in, the way he was able to capitalize off of his mistakes, the way he was able to come back and dominate every single fight, not just in the pro, but in the amateurs, because I think he's the only Mexican fighter that retired being undefeated as an amateur as well as a pro. I think Ricardo Espinto Lopez is, in my opinion, the greatest Mexican boxer that we have had, at least in the past 50 years. If not more. So y'all can take that for what it's worth. When it comes to the whole female issue, should have been a pay-per-view. Should have been a pay-per-view. That's up for debate. My issue is the price of the pay-per-view. My issue is the $30 in the midst of a pandemic on a boxing card. Involving female who are struggling for publicity, who are struggling for the public eye, who are struggling to be more recognized. I think at this price, being a pay-per-view, if they have a hard enough time getting butts on seats when it's free, or people in front of TV when it's free, my only question is what's going to happen when people are forced to pay $30 in order to see it. Maybe they will not have such a good turn of events when it comes to that. I just think that as far as female boxing goes, I have the same opinion I have when it comes to soccer. I'm a huge soccer fan. I follow the European League like a religion, and it's the same issue that's going on over there. Look, when you look at, let's say, Real Madrid, when you look at Barcelona, Atletico de Madrid, Manchester United, it doesn't matter who you look at. When you look at the male side, you see stadiums packed full of men and women. When you look at the female side, you see more men than you see women. My thing is, if we want female sports to succeed, we need females primarily. Females to support their females. Because men, there's always going to be a certain amount of men that's going to support either side. Okay? It doesn't matter. Right? But then we also need the females. Let's not sit at home and talk about females are not appreciated while you yourself are not buying a ticket to go see a game or see a fight. We need the females to come out and support the female boxers, because guess what? It's not so much the 2-minute round, even though that would help it. It's not so much that the lack of talent, even though the more talent, the better. It's the lack of support. Let's be real here. It's the lack of support, especially from women when it comes to women. I've had Sule Mormina in my show. I've had Mariale Espinosa. You guys have had Mariale Espinosa as well. You guys have had the legendary Christian Martin. We all have different inputs when it comes to this. Some like the 3-minute round, some don't. But at the end of the day, there's one topic that nobody has seemed to find what the incentive is to get these females out there, and it's that. Should we see female boxing grow? Yes. What do we need primarily will be the female support.
No, I agree with you, Ranger. And look, female tennis is actually bigger than men's tennis at many times in the year. You know, sometimes it can go back and forth at the Grand Slams depending on who a matchup involves. Like obviously you get Djokovic and Federer, it's tough to beat that. But generally speaking, like women are at least par in terms of TV viewerships and the amount of people sitting in stadiums like the one right here in New York City, Arthur Ashe out there in Queens for the U.S. Open. But you know what? You're absolutely right. Women support women's tennis and men support women's tennis. When you go to these women's fights, you don't often see a lot of women supporting female fighters. And again, it's going to take a couple decades of women fighting in the Olympics. And as my man Scott said, that kind of grassroots system behind it for all of this to take off.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Give us some final thoughts, Ranger.
Well, my final thought is basically just a message to you guys. Keep doing what y'all doing. I'm loving the show. I'm loving what we're doing here at the YTBC. And I'll keep watching. I'm actually on my way home from Chicago right now, and I'm entertained by you guys. So
awesome.
Keep on doing what y'all doing, man. HCP on the way to the top. Nothing's gonna stop, brother.
Thank you, Ranger. Stay safe on the road there.
All right, my brothers. Much love to all of you guys. Good luck, and continue on this great show. Bye.
Absolutely. Hey, Matt, you wanted to talk about what you put in the private chat there, that idea?
Well, yeah, Hale was mentioning that, like, okay, we need to get, like, some fighters sort of close to the same weight class and, you know, have them sort of mix it up a little bit. So my thought was, like, okay, we'll have, like, you know, the Super Six for women, but, like, who's gonna be in it? I mean, like, you know, I could think of maybe a couple of. Be honest with you, I couldn't name 6 professional women's boxers right now.
Like female boxing world super series type of thing.
You could do it. You could do it. Like honestly, you could do it in the lower weight classes. You really could. Like You could get Esparza, Estrada. You could get Suleiman Urbina. That's already 3. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not the most vast knowledge. I just, I'm one of those late bloomers with women's fighting that always, I don't want to see the women fight, but I grew into it and I'm accepting it now. You know what I mean? And I'm honest about that. But I mean, you could do it in the lower weight classes, but you're not going to find 6 women with Clarissa Shields' divisions. But a woman, Hannah Gabriel's, I think a rematch with her, I think would do great.
Yeah, the Costa Rican, she's a good fighter.
Yeah. And shout out to Alexis. She's calling us haters. All right. All right. Okay.
If Spin,
she gave $2 though.
Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. Tracy Boxer, Cole-Main, and Canelo, Cole-Main, and Crawford. It's okay if you know that. I just think like this fight for Clarissa would have done better for her if it's on the undercard of a big major event. Just my opinion. Kind of like that's what Christy Martin did. That was her blueprint. And if you want a headline, here's my final question. And if anybody wants to jump in with this. Is it really the time to do an all women's pay-per-view? Wouldn't it have been better to have some men that maybe some boxing fans can recognize some of those names on the undercard?
I don't think it's time for all women's pay-per-view. I'm going to go straight forward and answer. I don't think so. And it's not any type of hate on females. Like I said, I love the ladies. It's not about that. It's just there's not enough names that are recognized. That's like everybody on this panel watches boxing seriously, tries to catch every fight if they're available type situation, male or female. And the only person I know in the entire pay-per-view is Clarissa Shields.
Hey, real quick, the thing that scares me is it flops so bad and then we'll never see another one, when in actuality, it could be an all-male card. If you don't know who's fighting, who's going to buy it, right? Would you go see a movie if you don't know any of the actors and haven't seen the trailer? No, yeah, maybe on Netflix because you're just scanning through, right? You're already at the crib. It's already paid for. To me, it's less about women's boxing. It's just promotion 101. That's what I'm saying is if there's a commitment to it, I do believe it can take off. What's the ceiling? Dude, I have no idea. But it's like just throwing it out there and letting it fail is literally, to me, setting you up for people in the future who may actually want to invest in it, and they'll use this as a reason not to.
Yeah. Well said. We're going to go ahead and proceed here. We're going to stay on the pay-per-view topic just to show that we're equal opportunists, okay? Just for that, okay? Because they got Chris the Nightmare Arreola versus Andy the Destroyer Ruiz. Look, love both guys. Okay, I was a fan of Arreola, and I'm emphasizing was. Okay, I really am. But I'm sorry, bro. Like your time has come. Your time has passed. After that Kawanaki fight, I thought it was hard, but he took a lot of punishment. I felt okay. It's time to go, bro. Like it really is. Andy Ruiz. I guess he needs a tune-up, but it is pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen. Pay-per-view, Fox pay-per-view. Imagine being in that boardroom when it was proposed for that this is pay-per-view. Somebody probably started laughing. No, I'm serious. Like, oh, okay. So they're saying they're going to stack it up, all right? But look, Amilcar's cat loves the topic. Look at Amilcar's cat, right? Like, whoa, what? So maybe it will sell, But I will say this. I think it's in a flop. I'm not saying I want it to flop, but I don't think it does over 100,000. And I'm hearing it's $75. $75. Matt, talk to us. What do you think about this fight being on pay-per-view? And are you going to buy it, or are you going to roll down?
I will not be buying this fight. Absolutely not. When I think about Arreola, I can't believe he's even in like the mix now. Like I remember watching I think it must have been like 24/7 for like the Vitali fight. And I just looked that up. That was 11 years ago. And I felt like after I actually watched that fight, I felt like, wow, they got me emotionally invested in that. And then he just got, dominated. And then I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, like maybe he'll like lose 30 pounds or something and be like and that never really happened. So, I mean, it's cool. Like, you know, you take like the fat dudes and kind of bang them against each other and see what see what happens. I mean, that's cool. I'll watch. I don't think I'm gonna buy it.
All right. What about you and Milcar? What are your
Man,
thoughts on this fight, man?
Look, I'm right there with Matt, and Matt's from Brooklyn. Matt actually lives like literally around the corner from the Barclays, where he took a comprehensive ass beating at the hands of Adam Kaunaki. And I'm sorry, if you can't beat Adam Kaunaki, you're not going to beat Andy Ruiz Jr. For whatever we think about Andy Ruiz Jr., he's way better than Adam Kaunaki. And like Matt says, it's got to be something more than two overweight Mexican heavyweights going at it. Like, I actually want to see a fight where I'm thinking about who's going to win the fight. I'm thinking about technique and strategy and tactics. We're talking about a guy that lost twice to Bermane Stiverne. Think about that. 2013 and 2014, respectively, he lost twice to Bermane Stiverne. We're talking about a guy who, after taking an ass beating, which Matt just mentioned in 2009, ladies and gentlemen, against Dr. Iron Fist Vitaly Klitschko, he took an he couldn't comprehensively beat Thomas Adamek, who also got his ass beaten by Dr. Iron Fist Vitaly Klitschko. Fast forward to 2021, and we're supposed to buy this shit on pay-per-view? Look, I'll watch it on Fox. I'll watch it on FS1. It's gonna, but here's the thing. I'm talking a lot of shit right now because I damn well know I'm gonna fucking probably buy this pay-per-view. And that's the worst thing about all of it. I mean,
the guy was about to pop up here. Why you lying? You know what I mean? So
yeah, you're saying it shouldn't be on pay-per-view, and then I'm there. I damn well know I'm gonna buy it, and the reason being, when I go rowing gently down the, I can't deal with the buffering and the pauses and the re-clicking links. I you know what I say to myself? I'm too grown. I have
the malware and the viruses.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, I just don't want to go through that. So I always end up buying the shit, but luckily for me, I just set up an LLC and now I'll set it up as a business expense for tax purposes. So that's the way to go.
Hey, shout out to Big Dog Willie. Andy Ruiz versus Burnt Shrek would do better numbers. Burnt Shrek is Dillian White. All right, so shout out to Dillian White. Hopefully he can get himself off that canvas. We'll see what happens with him and Povetkin. But moving on. Hey, Scott Hale, what do you think, man? Arreola Ruiz, are you excited, brother?
Not at all, but shout out to Chris Arreola. Chris is cool as hell. I actually used to work for the Klitschko's. Total sidebar. But actually was at that fight, and my guy BB, him and his brother Daryl Hudson, BB was Chris's strength coach for that fight, and he was so frustrated because Chris was just skipping days. And shout out to Henry No Neck. That's my guy Henry, and he really does have no neck. But he was frustrated too. I just can't imagine Chris is going to be in any kind of shape. And it's like, I mean, you guys know this. Fighting is such a brutal sport anyway, right? And so you see guys fall off the cliff in other sports who are just always out of shape, and then they get nagging injuries. You look like Shaq's of the world, right? He just fell off a cliff. This guy was Godzilla. 4 years later, he was literally averaging 9 points a game. So being a fighter who's taking the punishment he has, I mean, after a couple of decent body shots, like, what's Chris really going to do, And the scary part is he's the older, more worn, more tread fighter, fighting a guy who actually can probably get a paycheck after this if he looks good, right? So it's like, what motivation does Chris have? So I actually think this is kind of one of those things where I just hope it's fun and they just brawl and like get drunk afterwards. But low key, I think this could be one of those fights where you're like, all right, Chris, like, I don't know who's managing you now, but you shouldn't be taking this fight, And I hope that doesn't happen. Like I said, Chris is cool as hell, but you guys know, like, in other sports, you have teammates. You can go from a star running back, lead the league in rushing, and then you start splitting carries, and all of a sudden you're a third down guy, right? Like the thing we love most about boxing is it's the ultimate one-on-one sport. And it's like, if you're not all the way in, there's no worse sport to even be involved in. And I just hope this isn't one of those fights where we watch it and Chris gets stretched. And we're like, dude, why the fuck is he even in this ring,
I'm going to tell you guys right now, before I go to Kenny, Andy Ruiz is going to beat the shit out of Chris Arreola. It's not even going to be competitive. It just isn't. Okay? First of all, I don't think there's any point in Arreola's career where he could mess with Andy, but it would have been a much better fight maybe like 6-7 years ago, but I don't think he ever beats him. And now he couldn't see some of Kawanaki's punches coming. What do you think Andy Ruiz is going to do? It's going to be a beatdown, man. And if anything, I hope Chris is getting compensated very well for this. You know what I mean? Just so Andy could get that work. And one more thing. Raider, I hear you, but I don't trust the dude that's telling me he lost weight and he's taking that angle. You know what I mean? Like I don't trust that angle. Okay. I'm just saying that there's broads that I know, you know what I mean? And they take that angle.
That's the Instagram angle.
That's the Instagram angle.
That's the Instagram angle.
Nah, bro. Like if I was doing a show like that and the camera's up here, like, come on, bro. All right. Okay, that's number one. Second, I want to see Andy do that pose when he's sitting down. How about that? Sit down, Andy. Sit down and do that picture. That's number one. Remember the one with the where he clearly used the he was like he was like this on the speed bag, and his face looked like thinned out. You guys remember that picture? He used the filter, bro, that thins out your face and shit. Like, what are you doing, Andy? The dude's the master of. So I'm gonna believe it.
Use the thought filter.
Yeah, remember when he was sitting next to Michael Hunter? He was sitting like just 2 weeks before the fight. Oh man, Andy looks in great shape. Oh man, and what happened? Dude had a black tank top, okay, all right, and was fat as shit. He looked like a walrus, literally, when he stepped in the ring with Anthony Joshua. A walrus. Okay, that's all I gotta say. Kenny, talk to us. What do you think about this fight being pay-per-view, brother?
Oh man, it should have never been a pay-per-view. Obviously, we all know that. We're gonna watch a washed-up Arreola versus Fat Ruiz. There's gonna be over a half a ton in the ring. Is the ring gonna be able to hold him up? I don't know, but it should be a good fight though. I expect to see punches and bunches. I expect it to go the full 12 rounds. I don't think if Kaunaski couldn't have knocked Arreola out, I don't see Ruiz doing it. In fact, the fight that I would like to see is Ruiz and Kaunaski. That would have been a way better fight. That would have been a way better pay-per-view that everybody would have been happy about. Still not a pay-per-view caliber fight. I don't know who convinced or who told Ruiz that he was a pay-per-view star. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where he got this in his head. I think it was the Snickers promotion that he was trying to do, Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a fun fight to watch. But is it gonna be anything amazing? No, I think we all know who the winner of this fight is gonna be, and I'll be surprised if it goes the opposite way. Extremely surprised. I'll be shocked. And somebody said on the chat that they're not gonna pay the $70 whatever it was to watch one guy breastfeed the other guy. Listen, man, that's some expensive ass breast milk. And that's it. I'm done. I'm passing it on from here. I'm passing it on.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Teresa for that super chat. She says, don't forget to jab that like button. Thank you very much for the support. Joe Lopez 40 ounce on here. How's it going, brother? Andre Rodriguez still here. T. White says Ronald McDonald should be the referee. I mean, my God, bro. All right, let me tell you something. Let me tell you guys something. In all seriousness, it's going to be exciting while it lasts. You know what I mean? But I don't know how long it's going to last, to be honest with you. And in all seriousness, I hope nothing bad happens to Arreola. Okay, just putting that out there. All right, just saying. All right. Well, we're there you go. We told you we're equal opportunists when it comes to this pay-per-view thing. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? So, hey, Mauricio Suleiman came out. Let me read this quote for you guys. You guys ready for this? Right. He's talking about how Yildirim was a product that it was nobody's fault, he said. He said it's nobody's fault he was a mandatory. It wasn't Yildirim's fault. It wasn't Canelo's fault. It wasn't the sanctioning body's fault. It was COVID. I mean, COVID made it happen, right? So in this case with Yildirim, there was a situation that drastically changed, which was the inactivity generated by the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic itself. We ended up ordering a fight with the official challenger so that the rights were respected. In this case, 2 years passed, and it was not anyone's fault. It was not the fault of Yildirim or the sanctioning body, but because of a pandemic. Before the pandemic, he was going to fight, and they canceled the fight. These are the things that happen. We must have a recourse not to be totally backed against the wall by a regulation when extraordinary things happen. All right? Hey, Milcar, talk to me, brother. So we've been blaming the WBC this whole time. You know what I mean? First of all, what's this? What's going on?
Well, I was just showing some pre-footage of the Ruiz Areola fight. I pulled up. This is the 24/7, and everybody ready, letting everybody know what to expect at possibly the Barclays Center. They're gonna be throwing the rice. You know, they got the little guys sweeping the ring. No ring card girls for this one. We're gonna have guys over there sweeping the mat, but
yeah, guys with donuts.
I don't want to see that anymore. But anyway, man, that dude had a thong on, bro. What's going on over here? Hey, but I hope they don't box in that. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, you're gonna get no buys. But hey, well, what do you make of that, Milcar? We've been blaming the WBC this whole time, but bro, it's not. It's COVID's fault. That's why Yildirim was
I mean, it's tough to say, and I don't want to necessarily agree with Jose Suleiman, but I'm about 50-50 with him on this one. And I talked about this yesterday on Hispanics Causing Panic. You check that out on my man G Funky's boxing channel, live at 9 Wednesday nights Eastern time. So look, it was
wait. Rewind. Okay.
Yeah.
Go again.
All right. So I'm going to make an argument kind of defending Jose Suleiman here. Look, the 160-pound division is very top-heavy. You got the champions, and pretty much in none of the sanctioning organizations you have very good contenders. You can look it up. The rankings at 168, they're not very strong, right? No one's talking about Canelo fighting anyone other than Billy Joe Saunders. I almost called him what my man Dave calls him. Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant. And there's a reason for that. Other than Benavidez, there's pretty much nobody else. And Yildirim got this title shot because he was promised a crack at the title after his fight with Durrell didn't go to distance due to what was essentially accidental. And you can agree with that or disagree with that. That's fine. What I will say is that if you look down the 168-pound rankings, you're not really going to see a lot of people that comprehensively beat Avni Yildirim other than a guy who lost his title on the scales, all right, in Benavidez, all right? He only had this shot because Benavidez lost his title on the scales. And he took a step back so that Canelo could fight Smith in his last fight, and he was guaranteed this fight. So, look, I'm not saying I agree with everything that happened, but that's how it happened. And if not Avni Yildirim, then I ask everybody in the chat, who at 168 in the WBC rankings was a better contender than Avni Yildirim, other than a guy who couldn't make 168 pounds? And that's my question for the chat.
Whoa. Mauricio Suleiman made Yildirim, who I don't want to fight in like 3 years, the mandatory. And he's saying, oh, COVID made me do it. You're a teacher. Did you accept the dog ate my homework? Is that an acceptable excuse?
No, I don't accept that. I'm actually pretty harsh as a grader at times.
Well, what about COVID made me do it? Not I got COVID. COVID made me do it.
Well, but I mean, COVID has stopped a lot of people from fighting. I mean, it's been a pandemic. And look,
No.
I agree, D-Cell, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Yildirim was not a good opponent. But here's the thing. If you're Avni Yildirim and you're guaranteed a shot at Canelo, you're not going to face anybody else and potentially lose in the interim.
Bro, like you were good until you said but, okay? Just no but. It's a bad opponent. Suleiman shouldn't have done it.
In an ideal world, a guy that couldn't make 168 pounds and lost his title on the scales, by the way, lost his title out of the ring for a second time, should have got the fight last Saturday night. But that guy couldn't make 168 pounds, and that's the problem.
Look at that comment right there. That's for you, Milcar.
Suleiman explaining us how Kafkaesque the bureaucracy of boxing becomes with the COVID and all, and that's why Yildirim was the choice. And Milcar, the justification is Suleiman is kind of lame, bro. Well, look, man, I respect Andre. I do, but I'm just gonna say, Andre, look at those rankings. I'm not saying Suleiman is right on this. I'm just I'm obviously trying to play devil's advocate here, but I'm looking at those rankings and who gets the shot other than obviously Benavidez.
Well said. All right. Enough defending Suleiman. I've had enough of it. Okay. Hey, hey, Matt, talk to us. Well, what do you make of Suleiman's explanation as to why Yildirim was the mandatory? It's COVID. The whole COVID happened.
Well, I mean, I don't really know what the rules are in terms of like how the mandatories work, but my understanding is that they could do whatever they want and they break the rules all the time. So I figure like they could have just given, I don't know, paid him off or told him to wait or, something. They I don't know, they have ways of dealing with this, I assume, because like this was just sort of like a weird fight. I don't know. I've expected them to just try to do it with Benavidez, regardless of whether he'd missed weight or was unprofessional or whatever. Or, I don't know, do something like try to induce Charlo to move up. Or, just make something people want to see. I mean, nobody wants to see Canelo bludgeon Yildirim. I mean, it was not surprising. It was over fast. It was like anticlimactic and ended on the stool. Like, not what anyone wanted to see.
Absolutely. It just didn't make sense. They could have just never made him the mandatory because he never won a fight to become the mandatory. Like, that's just simple. That's clear to me. Hey, Hill, talk to us, brother. Well, what do you think of this reasoning? It's just it's just abnormal circumstances. COVID happened. We had no choice. We have to make it mandatory.
It's complete bullshit, but COVID is a legit excuse for many things, not for this fight. Like I said, at the end of the day, Suleiman is who he is. He's a used car salesman of a used car salesman. He's like Bernie Madoff, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, dude is a tier 1 scam artist. I'm sure he's taking out some PPP loans one way or another during this pandemic. It is what it is, right? So Canelo wanted to fight. He had to fight someone. We all would have preferred to see him fight Benavidez, but for obvious reasons that have already been discussed, that didn't happen. And there's probably a couple of reasons behind the scenes that it didn't happen as well that, I don't necessarily want to get on people when they're down a little bit, but, rumors are rumors. Point is, to me, he shouldn't have just said anything about the fight. We all knew what it was the moment it was announced, during the cheesy ring walk, when the fight was ending. It was a stay busy fight. To me, this is just a shitty excuse from a dude that's always making excuses. So it is what it is. It's almost a non-story really to me. Because like I said, when have you seen a fight that they knew it was going to be so bad that they purposely announced the next fight, right? I mean, like this was literally, you know what I'm saying? It's like if your girl broke up with you and she already moved in with the dude, like, you know what I mean? You've been getting cheated on the whole time. You know what I mean? So it's like, it is what it is.
All right, Milk Car, what are you trying to show us here? That this is justified?
No, I mean,
Is the rankings?
Yeah, I had that pulled up. Thanks for bringing it up, D-Style, and I put it in the chat. I mean, look, these are the rankings at 168 pounds under Canelo.
Okay. Well, the counter to that is the rankings are bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Bullshit, but
There's some better names on there.
even if you look across the table, right? Look across the table. There's not really anybody there. I mean, who would we rather have seen him face?
I'll tell you right now, yeah, David
Ellis.
Lemieux. Why? Why? Because that's the guy that Billy Joe Saunders looked amazing against. David Lemieux. Yes, I would have loved to have seen him against David Lemieux instead of Avni Yildirim. Or even the washed up Anthony Dirrell. I would guess what? Anthony Dirrell beat Avni Yildirim. That was the last fight that Avni Yildirim had. I would rather see Canelo versus Dirrell or Canelo versus Lemieux. And yes, number one fight would have been Canelo versus David Benavidez. It's simple. There's definitely some names on that list. Yes, if you go further down, everybody's like unknown blah blahs or whatever. But there's definitely some names on that list, starting with Lemieux. Lemieux should have gotten that shot over Avni Yildirim. Lemieux was, like I said, the last guy that Billy Joe Saunders fought where Billy Joe Saunders looked great. So it would have been nice for Canelo to make Lemieux look even weaker than Billy Joe Saunders did.
Isn't that the same?
And then show out against Canelo.
Kenny, isn't that the same thing? D-Style just said that Yildirim shouldn't have got the shot because he lost his last fight. And now you're saying that Lemieux should get the fight not because he won, but because he lost to Billy Joe Saunders.
I never said that. That wasn't my comment. I didn't say that Avni shouldn't have gotten the fight because he's lost his last fight. I could see how that is a good point though. And then Anthony Dirrell would have been my second runner up. Anthony Dirrell won against Avni Yildirim. That was the last fight that Avni Yildirim had. Anthony Dirrell would have been a better pickup. Although Anthony Dirrell continues looking more washed up and more washed up and more washed up every single fight that he has, it would have still been a better fight than Avni Yildirim.
This is the same dude. All right? I want everybody to listen to me, including everybody out there in the back. This is the same organization that literally said we went to Hawaii and we had a vote, and now we have a new franchise champion. Just say you went to somewhere, say you had a stupid made-up vote, and say Yildirim needs to fight Dirrell, and the winner becomes a mandatory or some shit. It's not that complicated. Right? It just isn't. Just don't name him the mandatory. It's that easy. Because then we're stuck with this trash fight. And I commend Canelo for getting it out of the way in between two big fights. Thank God. But it just, now there isn't a mandatory for 18 months or something. Someone more deserving could have gotten it. Make people fight for the mandatories. Make sure you need to win a fight to become a mandatory. Okay? It's the way I feel about it. And I always feel about it and all that good stuff. That's all I got to say about that. All right? With that said, let me get Suleiman's name out of my screen right now. Right? Get this dude's name out while I work on that. There is a new, chairman of the zone. I just wanted you guys thoughts on this. Boxing Scene reported Kevin Mayer is a new DAZN chairman. John Skipper has stepped down. Kevin Mayer has worked with other apps, I believe ESPN Plus. John Skipper, has stepped down. He's still going to be involved, but what do you guys make of that, if anything? Anybody have any thoughts on that? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I can go.
What?
DAZN didn't have the impact that it wanted to have at the beginning of its campaign here in the United States. They put all their marbles on Eddie Hearn, and it's debatable whether Eddie Hearn has really done the job that they wanted to do. And I guess at the end of the day, the buck stops with John Skipper because he's the one that gave him the $1 billion with a B to spend on boxing in the U.S. market. And has he produced? I don't really think he has. You know, in terms of the signings of U.S. talent, I mean, his main asset, if you want to call a human being an asset, is Anthony Joshua. And he was already signed to Matchroom, and he signed to Matchroom in the U.S., and he's on a fight-by-fight basis contract with DAZN. You know, he picked up Daniel Jacobs. He picked up, who else has he picked up? He picked up, obviously, Devin Haney. There's been
Jesse Vargas,
Demetrius Andrade. He's made some signings, but has he really had the big splash that you'd expect with $1 billion, again, with a B investment? I assume that DAZN just was not very happy with that. I mean, Eddie Hearn has salvaged things a little bit by now essentially being hired by Canelo to promote his fights. But were it not for Canelo returning to DAZN after pretty much tearing up his contract with Golden Boy, I think, you know, the writing was on the wall as to what would happen with John Skipper. But those are just my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I think if anything, I don't think this would be happening. They're talking about accelerating the success. I think that's a very fancy way of saying we're not moving fast enough, like, right?
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. I think DAZN, if you notice, have started to get more strict about the money that they spend, right? I mean, look at the money they dropped for Vargas, Mikey Garcia, right? And they only bid $3 million for Teofimo Lopez to be on their network, you know. So that tells you everything. You know, like I think they were throwing away a little too much money. Eddie Hearn was throwing a little too much money, and I think Skipper is responsible for that. And I just don't think, at least in the U.S., that they have moved fast enough. And I think that they're looking for, whether it'll be for the best or not, I don't know. But I think it's just new management. That's all. Before we proceed, anybody have any further thoughts on this?
I just like to say really quick,
Sure.
It's the gamble of business, right? Do you do the slow burn, or do you just go all in with the big name? I mean, obviously, Canelo was like the perfect candidate, right? Because he was young enough, big enough. But I mean, even still, no matter the budget, we've seen it, you know, it can be Heyman, Golden Boy, who, I mean, all through the years. It's been HBO's budget. People's always complain about it. I mean, the best fights to me is the best way to go. And I get it, right? Because a lot of times you fake it until you make it. So if I'm selling you guys on something, I'm going balls to the wall. I'm telling you all these named fighters I can get and how exciting it'll be. And then you guys give me this budget and I go out there and spend so much of it. But dude, you got to put on better fights consistently, right? And like, that's what's going to make people buy into a subscription model. The whole point of a subscription model is you offer a free month, you know, I'll pay for a year up front. You have cash in hand. I mean, come on. It's like a franchise. I mean, there's a reason there's a Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, McDonald's everywhere you go, right? Because it's a phenomenal business model. But dude, they tricked off way too much money on fights that ultimately didn't pay off. And then now it's not sustainable. And then, I mean, dude, Triller, I don't even know the damn name of the shit. I think they're probably just headed down the same boat, right? I mean, they're spending shitload of bread. Yeah, my bad. It's Thriller. The best thing they got going for them is Snoop. You know what I mean? It ain't gonna be the fights. So it's always interesting to see, because someone new comes in, sets the bar. They have to overpay to make a splash, but eventually it evens out, right? And then we get stuck with Bob Arum and insulting his fighters, right? I mean, it always goes back to the ageless Bob Arum. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but they definitely ran through a lot of bread really, really quickly.
Yes, they did. And whether it benefited them or not, I don't know. But here's what we're going to do, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about Manny Pacquiao. Pac-Man. It'll be the last topic we'll cover today or tonight. There's talks of Mikey Garcia fighting Manny Pacquiao. All right. Now, this is, of course, Mikey saying that people thought it was crazy a couple months ago. Like, he ain't going to fight you. He's going to get that bag with McGregor, but now McGregor got knocked out. You know what I mean? With hands. So he wasn't submitted or something. He doesn't have that out. You know what I mean? Manny Pacquiao versus Mikey Garcia. I have thoughts on this, but I want to know what you guys think. Kenny, to start with you. What are your thoughts on this fight?
Man, it's definitely for me. I think it's a waste of Pacquiao's time and a waste of Garcia's time. Well, Pacquiao's been fighting at 147. Is Garcia gonna fight at 147? He got washed up last time he fought at 147. He's not a 147 fighter, but they're gonna fight at 135, 140. Since Mikey Garcia, I'm not saying he's a bad fighter. He's a great fighter, but if I want to see Pacquiao fight somebody, I've said this for years. I want to see Pacquiao fight Spence. I want to see Pacquiao fight Crawford. I don't give a damn about him fighting Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is an afterthought in the welterweight division. He's no primetime fighter in the welterweight division. I'm not hating him. Like I said, he's a great boxer. He's an extremely skilled, great boxer in the 135 and 140 pound division, not in 147. I think that Mikey Garcia needs to go back to the drawing boards and start making himself a plan as to how he's going to become a main name in boxing, or how he's going to become the top boxer or top pound for pound or something, how he was a couple years back before he took that major L to Errol Spence. I don't want to see this. Will I watch it? Yes. I don't want to see it though. Manny Pacquiao has very few fights left in him, and if anything, I want to see some very few serious fights, not no Mikey Garcia or Ryan Garcia. Why are we going after the Garcias? Come on.
That's right. Okay. Scott Hale. I mean, you had a shirt once that Mikey wore for you. You have to represent, right?
Yes, sir. And a Pacquiao shirt. Mikey's my guy, but I agree with Kenny here. And before I even go on my point, right? Just really quick, remember when we were discussing Canelo earlier about the whole GOAT debate, right? So it's like, remember when Floyd fought Manny? It's like, oh, Manny's washed, blah, blah, blah. Manny wasn't washed. You know what I'm saying? He was to me, that's why you have to wait until it's said and done to have these conversations, because Manny was not washed then. He was confused. He may not have been at his peak, but he was definitely not washed, and he's gone on to prove that since. To me, there's better fights to be made. Manny has never been scared to fight anyone. So I'm bewildered by this fight. It just makes no sense to me, right? So look at it like this. Okay, Manny Spence makes all the sense in the world to me. That's a fight that I'd be interested in seeing. That's a fight I would pay for. That's a fight that I'd actually read the articles, you know what I'm saying, leading up to it and all that bullshit. This fight, I mean, yes, I'll watch it, but it doesn't intrigue me. I don't think Mikey's going to be able to hurt Manny at any point. Manny's been hit by some by tanks, bazookas before, you know what I'm saying? So it's then it's going to turn into, at some point, can Mikey stay in the fight and not just fight to not get knocked out, right? I mean, that's going to be the intrigue the last 3 rounds, I think. And to me, that's not the type of fight that I get excited about. Like I said, obviously when I watch the fight, but to Kenny's point, I think there's much better fights to be made for Manny, and this is not it, man. And so, hey, real fast, this is going to be probably a $49 fight? What, 75?
Who knows? But maybe $79.99.
Shit.
Yeah. But let's go ahead and go to
D-Style, roll, what?
Roll your boat gently down the, Hey, Milcar, give us your thoughts on this matchup. Is it a fight you like to see?
It's not a fight I like to see. It's very...
Man, I hate.
It's just confusing. I don't know why Manny would take on this fight at this stage of his career. Kenny's absolutely right. He's 100% correct. Garcia is not a proven guy at 147. And he leapfrogged 140. I mean, his most effective weight, we're led to believe, is 135. Might have even been lower than that, because obviously he didn't start as a lightweight. What has he done at 147 pounds? if I'm Manny, this is the move I make. I keep that emeritus title. I think they call it championship in recess in the WBA, right? I defend it or fight, a non-title fight, whatever, against a name at welterweight. Pick anybody out of the rankings, and then I take on the winner of Josh Taylor, okay, and Ramirez for all the marbles at 147, and then he can retire attempting to do something that he never accomplished, which is clear out a division and be undisputed in a division. That is the way to go out if you're Manny. He's always said he can basically eat all he wants and make 147, and he could make 140 pounds easily. Okay. Easily. That's what his handlers have been saying for years. That he doesn't even diet as a welterweight. Like, he literally shows up to weigh-ins 144 pounds and has like a full breakfast. So take on any name at 147, maybe even take on a 140 guy, right? And then go right after the winner of Ramirez or Josh Taylor. Guaranteed those guys would want that fight. Guaranteed. And he goes at them for all the marbles at 140 and walks away from the sport attempting to be undisputed champion of the world. That's what I would do if I was Manny Pacquiao.
Man, it's going to be a clean sweep. Hey, Matt, give us your thoughts on this, man. Is this a fight you would like to see?
Yeah, well, my first thought was that, like, yeah, I'd like to see him fight Spence, but then I was thinking, like, well, if I'm Pacquiao, I'd probably try to avoid that. And then from that line of thinking, I was thinking, well, this seems okay. This is, like a safe fight for Pacquiao. He's not going to get hurt. He's probably going to get a win. But I have to say, Emil, you've really convinced me. That's a really good point. Like, he could move down, completely avoid having to fight Crawford or Spence or anything, and try to, like, go out with a real bang against, guys closer to his size. But more about Garcia, just the idea of this just kind of makes me sad to see a guy who was so heralded and great in the lower weight classes. I'm not sure if this is reality or what his sense of the financials were, is that he just had to move up to make his money in the sport. I mean, like, man, like there should be no downside to, like, being the man at 135 or 140, but apparently that doesn't pay the bills, and that's too bad, because just when you saw him in there with Spence, it was like, oh, these guys shouldn't be fighting each other. Like, they don't, this looks like, something, you should separate these guys before someone gets hurt. I mean, like, it was just so much smaller, and it was really too bad. I mean, if he could pull it off against Pacquiao, that would be great. I doubt it. It's just too bad.
So, good job, Emil Carr, convincing people to no longer like the fight, and like people were excited, pumped for the fight, and you're over here like giving people reason not to watch the fight. I love this fight.
Anti-promoter.
I love this fight, and it's a dangerous fight for Manny Pacquiao. It's a dangerous fight. I'll say it, and I'll say it again. I'll say it one more time. It's a dangerous fight for Manny Pacquiao. All the things that were giving him problems against Spence, Pacquiao doesn't have. And Pacquiao right now doesn't beat Spence either. So I think people are judging it. Who here in the panel will pick Pacquiao to beat Spence right now? All right. So there we go. We can't judge it by that.
Fun fight, though.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
He's not a welterweight. And not only is he not a welterweight, he's 43 fucking years old. Like,
none of them are. Mikey will be better off at 140. Do the fight at 140. It's all good. He's got love handles at 147.
I'm just talking about the people that want Manny to, like, get beaten on by Errol Spence Jr. I mean, what is the point of that? He's 43 years old. This started at 108 pounds his career?
So that makes the fight interesting. He's old. He's been inactive. And this dude, I disagree, Hale. He can't crack. Didn't you watch him drop Jesse Vargas like that?
No, I'm not
Let
saying
me
he
grab.
can, but I don't think he can hurt Manny, dude.
Yeah, he
I
can.
mean, he has already been shot in the chest with a howitzer. I mean,
He can hurt
got
Manny Pacquiao.
the
Look, let me tell you guys something. Anyone who doesn't believe that Mikey can beat Pacquiao #1 or put him to sleep is out of their mind. Okay, Marcus put him to sleep, and Marcus started his career at 130. Right, two other dudes put him to sleep in the lower weight classes. They never put him to sleep at welterweight and above. So it's not about size now. It's about the counter punching abilities. Mikey Garcia is going to do better against a guy who's coming at him. Is going to be aggressive. He's going to counter punch him, and he's going to land on Manny. It's not a gimme fight. It's a tough fight, and this dude's been inactive. Manny Pacquiao's. And by the way, I'm not saying Mikey would win, but let's assess it for a moment. Let's look at the last few wins. I think Mikey did a better job against Broner. I think Mikey did a better job, for sure against Broner, for sure. I don't know about Jesse Vargas, but he did a better job against Broner.
D-Star, let me ask you something.
But is Mikey drinking his own urine? Yes or no?
You never know. Maybe. And let me tell you something. Can Mikey counter with the right hand? Yes or no?
He can counter with the right hand, but I want to ask you this, right?
Sure.
Is Manny Pacquiao not one of the biggest commodities in the sport of boxing?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Right? So
But Manny doesn't want to fight Crawford or Spence.
Okay, but wait a second, D. Because earlier on, you convinced a whole lot of people in the chat, okay, that Yildirim shouldn't have got the fight because he lost. What happened in Danny Garcia's last fight?
You mean Mikey?
Sorry, man. Sorry, yeah, him too.
Danny got beat up. But
Mikey Garcia's last
Mikey
fight.
won.
No.
His last fight. Mikey won his last fight. He beat Jesse Vargas.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, but when Pacquiao beat Jesse Vargas, everybody beat Jesse Vargas, guys. When Pacquiao beats Broner, he beat Broner.
I'm still thinking of the Spence fight. That's how
Let
far
me tell you something.
behind Jesse Vargas is.
If I may,
tell you guys something.
1 second. I just think that if Pacquiao's gonna go out, he should try to go out as a god of the sport. And fighting Mikey Garcia makes him an ant in the sport. Fighting an Errol Spence or Crawford, if he was to beat them, would make him a god. And that's my thought.
Hey, I mean, he would make a statement with that, right? But does he want to come back after a long layoff and fight a Crawford or a Spence? That's not smart. Like, why would he do that? Like, after being out of the ring for so long? I don't know about that, man. It's been almost 2 years, guys, since he fought. Like a year and a half. I think he fought 2019 in July, didn't he? Against homeboy, what's his name? Ponytail. He's bald now. But
The flute player.
yeah, the flute guy. You know what I mean? I'm talking about Thurman, guys. Okay, but look, I honestly believe it's a tough fight for Pacquiao. I think it's a tough fight.
I agree.
I think Pacquiao has trouble, guys. That can counterpunch him. And let me tell you something. Broner, he was wrong, but when he said, y'all know I beat that boy and all this and that and the third, he didn't say shit about the Mike Garcia fight because he was shut down every second of that fight against Mikey. He has shit to say after that fight. All right? Mikey Garcia, outside of that, Spence fight. Spence is the guy that's eventually going to be fighting at middleweight one day. Okay, Mikey started at 126, all right? The size was a factor, a big factor. It's a non-factor in the Pacquiao fight. So I'm pumped for the fight. I'm going to buy this fight. I'm going to be pumped.
I'd put money on that fight against you, bro. We'd have a wager going. I put my entire bank account on Manny Pacquiao.
What about the ponytail, though?
Nah, the ponytail stays, man. The ponytail stays. I ain't going nowhere.
We always talk about
you can get money faster than you grow your hair back.
Because I don't know if I'm going to pick Mikey, but I do believe that it's going to be a very, very competitive fight. Chicano Prophet says, Mikey, free pass, Garcia. Man, Jesus Christ. Well, with that said, guys, we've had a great show. We're past the 2-hour marker here. All right. Kenny, give us some quick final thoughts.
Hey, Mikey Garcia is going to take an L if he fights Pacquiao. Canelo one day will be considered the GOAT. Thank you guys for having me. Mad love.
Hale, give us some quick final thoughts, brother.
Everyone, go to your app store and download basketballnews.com app, rated 5 stars. Much appreciated ahead of time. Basketballnews.com. D-Style, thanks for having me on. You've helped bring me back. I say one more episode, I'm going to have to take away the casual fan off my name.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Matt, give us some quick final thoughts, brother.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we can all agree that Emil is buying the Fat Boy pay-per-view and that we're all welcome at his house. It's going to be a great time.
That's right. You're going to have to, like, just hold that camera for us. You know what I mean? And we could just, like, watch it, you know? I'm just saying. Milcar.
Zoom out.
They won't fit on the camera.
Yeah. Hey, talk to us, Milcar. Talk to us. Final thoughts.
Well, pleasure being on the round table as always. Great to see Kenny here. Hailstorm, man, been too long. We got to have you back more often. Thank you, Matt, for joining us today. And I just got to let everybody in the chat know I've got 3 more subs before I get to big dog status on YouTube. Just 3 more subs. So if I can get 3 of you to click the link to my channel and subscribe, I'm officially a big dog on YouTube, which I've been working hard towards. And I know my man D-Style has been supporting me with. So
what's the channel name?
Thank you for everyone who is watching tonight. And I look forward to being back with you soon, D-Style.
Everybody subscribe to Maestro. All right. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We made it happen, brother. Like we got this roundtable last second. You know what I mean? So, but we made it happen. I appreciate you guys for coming on, especially on a last second notice. And this is D-Style Boxing, right? And I mean, you know, I forgot to grab something up here. I don't know if you guys can see. You know what I mean? Like just go ahead and, you know, keep it boxing. I'm out.